Moving on from question 19 of LSAT PrepTest 141's first logical reasoning section, section 2, we get to question 20, and as always, we've got our highlight tool ready to go as we engage with the question stem and identify what it is we are being asked to do first. So 20 states the argument relies on the assumption that. So this is asking for what must be to believe whatever the conclusion is. So we're going to read the information on the left. After reading the full paragraph, we're going to highlight the single statement that is the conclusion, and then we're going to broadly think about how the author of this argument got to the conclusion and what the relevant pieces are to potentially have a broad idea of what the assumption might be before we go to the answer choices. So starting with the top of the paragraph, the advent of chemical fertilizers led the farmers in a certain region to abandon the practice of periodically growing a green manure crop such as alfalfa in a field to rejuvenate its soil. As a result, the soil structure in a typical farm field in the region is poor. So, to significantly improve the soil structure, farmers will need to abandon the use of chemical fertilizers. And our conclusion is this final statement. And we may underline what the goal is, which is to significantly improve the soil structure. The farmers have to abandon the use of chemical fertilizers. And we should also recognize that it's all tied to this idea of growing a green manure crop to rejuvenate the soil. And we basically had a situation where that practice has been abandoned, and that has led to needing to abandon chemical fertilizers because ultimately it's the chemical fertilizers that have somehow made people no longer do these green manure crops. So if you're trying to track terms, you can use the underline to just kind of focus on those specifics, but remember, you only want to highlight in your color the conclusion, as we did here in number 20's paragraph. So going back to our pink, looking for reasons to eliminate, starting with choice A. Most, if not all, farmers in the region who abandon the use of chemical fertilizers will periodically grow alfalfa. Well, I mean, that was the green manure crop, right? So maybe this is right. So we'll hold on to this for now. Thank you for watching this LSAT explanation video. If you're enjoying the tips that it contains, please consider becoming a My Guru YouTube channel member if you haven't already done so. You'll get access to exclusive videos and early access to new LSAT explanation videos as they're produced as well. Additionally, you'll get access to speak with me and potentially discounts on live tutoring as well. So consider becoming a My Guru member today, but for now, let's get back to this explanation. Then choice B, applying chemical fertilizers to green manure crops such as alfalfa has no positive effect on their growth. Well, we're not advocating for the chemical fertilizers to actually go on these crops. It was an either or thing, not one but not the other kind of thing. So it's they're happening at the same time. So B, we didn't have any indication that the chemical fertilizers were going on the green manure crops, which allows us to eliminate B as not being necessary to the argument. Then choice C, the most important factor influencing the soil quality of a farm field is soil structure. We don't need it to be the most important factor. We just know it is a factor. So we can eliminate choice C for not being necessary as well. Then choice D, chemical fertilizers themselves have a destructive effect on the soil structure of farm fields. Well, we don't need the chemical fertilizers to be the cause of the soil structure being poor. We just know that it led to not doing the green manure thing, and it's that lack of a green manure crop that made the soil structure poor. So D kind of skips a couple of steps, or like inserts this new relationship that we need additional information about. And then lastly, choice E, many, if not all, farmers in the region will not grow green manure crops unless they abandon the use of chemical fertilizers. And we should be looking at this and going, that's exactly what we needed. Because we needed to tie the green manure crops to these chemical fertilizers. E does that directly. It is our correct answer. And then if we go back to A, however, by focusing on the green manure crops in choice E, we might recognize what makes A wrong. We don't actually care about the farmers growing specifically alfalfa. Alfalfa is just an example of a green manure crop. It could be any green manure crop. It does not have to be alfalfa specifically. So that's the reason we could eliminate choice A. And of course, choice E is going to be the necessary assumption for problem number 20 here of LSAT PrepTest 141's second section.